I've seen a lot. Amid the celebrity allure of entrepreneurship, many exceptional entrepreneurs remain shadowed. Here, I team up with these hidden talents to unveil their challenges and successes. Dive in with me to unearth entrepreneurial gems, learn from our experiences, and get educated. We have people who are really stuck and they need help and they don't know how to get from, here, wherever they are, wherever that is, to, the process of either developing the identity to, I hate using the word working out. I just health.
I use the word training,
health, wellness, fitness, whatever the word is for people. I'm one, not to put words in people's mouths, but they have to choose the word. They have to choose the identity, and then, help evolve that. So I'm curious, because you've got so much experience in this area, and since you brought up identities, can we maybe flush that out a bit?
Yeah. So the identity. So I mentioned that VIP, the North Star process, right? And you have the vision, then you have the purpose, but the I is identity. So you look at your vision and purpose, right? And so you write this out. This is like, hey, this is a story I'm creating. This is the movie script of my life. This is what I'm creating. I always start with the body because it's easy. The body doesn't lie. It just reflects back what you do with it, right? And so that, but whenever you get the body, this will channel into every other of your life.
Which is, thank you for saying that, because I was going to say like that, this is what the podcast is about. We're talking about physical fitness, or whatever you want to call it, training, whatever, optimizing your energy. But it's the process is, you take an intimate relationship and it's like, what's your vision for the relationship? What's your purpose? And then they do that in their business. I don't like my job. I don't like my boss. He's an asshole, whatever. I'm going to go start my own business. And
there's the story.
There's no there's no plan. There's no substance. And so this is awesome information.
Yeah. So
back to identity.
So what you do to get your identity, first of all, you can decide who you want to be. That's the thing. That's a cool thing with life. We create our beliefs, but we don't usually do it consciously. So we just picked a bunch up. And so we are the creators. Like the way you feel, you create. That's what personal responsibility is. Like if someone says something to me and it makes me sad, that's the way I interpret it. But they may have really good intentions. Maybe they're like, they told me they didn't like my shoes. But they're telling me like, if I wear those on front of the green screen, they're going to look ridiculous. I'm like, well, then that's helpful. They're looking out for me, right? It's all the interpretation of things. So you have to decide who you want to be. And so, but you need to know what type of person you want to be. You need to know what the adventure of life is. Like, what journey am I going on? So you need that vision. You need that higher purpose. And the higher purpose is always bigger than the outcome. So it's not about the six pack. It's about being, giving, and feeling your best so that you can live a life of no regrets and serve on a higher level. That's what it comes down to in your own way. There's a multitude of ways of doing it, but ultimately that needs to be the higher purpose. That's long lasting. It's bigger than you and it will pull you forward. You won't have to will it so much, but you got to tell yourself this again and again. You got to program it through focused repetition. And I'll share that later, but here's the question for the identity. You look back at that vision, look back at the higher purpose, and you say, who is the man or woman, but who is the man who is not only capable of creating and fulfilling this vision purpose, but would love to do it? And then describe their three most dominant emotional states and the belief they have about when shit doesn't go their way. Because your belief about your problems will determine the quality of your life. So if every problem is a pain in the ass and you fall back and you go into pity and you start telling everybody about the problem, then you're going to suffer. And you're not going to make a lot of progress in life. You're going to have a pretty shitty life. But if you have a problem and you say, this is an opportunity for me to grow, man. And then if you need to share it with somebody, you do it from a place of power, not from the victim, but from that lion where it's like, hey, I know we're going to get past this. I'm unsure of the strategy. What do you think? These are the facts, not the feelings, the facts. And then you cultivate a plan, you enact it, and then reassess. But you got to have that identity. And so the identity, there's really four beliefs. The problems are, so if I ask you problems are, what would you say?
problems are
Step in the entrepreneur. You're in a meeting, right? You're in a meeting, go into that state. And when you're in that meeting and you're creating things and so a problem comes up, problems are.
instant problems are solvable.
Yep. See, that's yours.
Yeah.
You can see it because you just let go for a second because I caught you off guard. So about that.
Yeah.
You were taking notes and I was like, hey,
Yeah.
question for you. But that's one of them. Problems are. Most people say things like problems are a pain in the ass. Oh, problems are the worst, right? And they have, and then it goes on though. It's not just one statement. They go on with it. They ride it out because they want to.
Problems are everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
They're at home. They're at
Right.
Yeah.
But you decide your beliefs. And so why not choose beliefs that are empowering, that make your life better and the lives around you better, right? And so problems are is one. The other one is life is. So a lot of people will say life is a battle. Life is a war. Well, one, it's not. Let's be honest. That's a gross exaggeration. If you ever experience combat, you know that's not true. And that's horrific. And so, but what if life's a game and you're getting better at every day, right? That's a whole other experience. And it doesn't matter where you're at in life. You can make it a game, right? And so there's incredible stories of people that have gone through like genocides and stuff that have somehow turned it into a game and created, even though it was terrible, and I never wish that upon anyone, but they created an empowering meaning, a greater story, and they're now living that story out by making sure it never happens again, right? They even forgave the people that murdered their families. Like these are just incredible humans that can forgive on another level, right? And hopefully we don't ever have to go through that, but some people did and they overcame it. And when we think of our problems, other people have gone through way worse. Now, some people, maybe they're listening to this and they are going through way worse. Maybe they have a kid that's really sick or something. And, you can still create a higher meaning. There's someone that went through it that can help you through this because there's been a lot of humans and this is one that this can help you, but there's always an option. And so with the questions, it's life is, so is it a game or is it a battle? But there's many ways of saying what resonates for you. What would make it feel light and fun and you're excited and eager about living it? Life is. Problems are. Then people are. So this was a tough one for me because a lot of people, because of my clients, want to use me to get to other people, right? That's been going on for a long time. And I'm honestly more of an introvert. And an introvert is someone or an extrovert is someone that gets energized by being around people. An introvert is someone who's energized by being alone. Mm-hmm. And so I prefer solitude. And then my close friends like you, people I really like, but the rest of the world, to be honest, I could sit by myself forever.
You're hanging out with the right guy.
Yeah. But I come here because I respect you and I love and appreciate you. But
no, I mean, you're hanging out with the right guy on the other side of your life.
Oh yeah. That's funny. And so people are. So if you say people are a pain in the ass, people are evil, like some people actually believe that people are evil or so like we have these gross generalizations that affect things. But when you're in fear, life is a light switch. It's on or off. It's black or white. What's true is life isn't on or off. It's not 0% or 100%. It's 0%, 100%, and everything in between. Yeah. There's a nuance. In genius, really, when you talk about genius, they're nuanced. They never say all people are like this. All Americans are like that. All French people are like that. That's not a smart thing to say because it's just not true. Mm-hmm. There are great people of every race, creed, color, country, and probably aliens are probably the same way, I would imagine, right? It's a nuance. It's a consciousness level. If it's someone who has a high level awareness and very self-honest and take full responsibility and lives from their heart, I don't care where you're from or what you look like. You're someone I want to be around, right? That's a high consciousness person. And they're going to have consideration for not just you, but everyone around them. And so people are, problems are, life is. And the biggest one is what drives your identity. I am. Mm. And so this is, when I work with clients, this is something we program while they train. Because whatever you think about as you train will be linked up. So one of the things I noticed, I looked at all my clients when I used to stand there and train people. I'd have clients that loved it. Some of them started their own gyms, became trainers and stuff. And I talked to them. And then I would call up these people that kind of just didn't stick around, right? And it was always a funny conversation because they didn't want to talk to me because they were embarrassed, right? Yeah. And so the difference was when the people that failed, that just gave up or quit, or they create a story, the dabblers, right? What they did was, while they trained, they said things like this. And I remember it clearly because at the time I thought it was funny. Like, oh, I hate you. This sucks. How many more? Oh, I got so much to do today. When are we going to be done? Like, that's being linked up with being in the gym, with exercise. Eventually, subconscious records it all. Eventually you wake up and you're like, I'm not going there. And or it's like, oh, I got other things to do. It's no longer a priority. And you start doing it because they create a whole story around that. They were writing the story during those times. And the people that really loved it were always not focused on the outcome. They were focused about feeling good today. So they could be their best for like their kids, for instance. I remember that's one client, she was in incredible shape. She still is. She moved to Texas. But she just looked like a professional fitness model or something. But she's like an incredible mom. Like, she homeschooled her kids. She did everything, but and she was proud of who she was as a mom. That was her identity. But her training was a necessary part of her preparation to play that role for her children. And that her identity, she sculpted her identity because of her vision and her purpose for her family. And anyone can do that. She did it without consciously doing it, but she did it. So she trained to feel good and have the energy so that she could show up as her best for herself, but for her family and everyone around her. Because you know how people say they have good days and bad days? That's horseshit. That you're just not, you're letting that happen. You're not taking command of your mind and body.
You're not controlling your environment.
You're just, life's happening to you. You're like, leadership is this, in the simplest terms to me, is a leader impacts their environment positively. If you're not a leader, the environment impacts you positively or negatively. They decide, not you. You're a victim of that, right? I got to share this because this really had a profound effect on my life. I've done martial arts my whole life because my dad was a fighter, and then I became a fighter, and I train fighters to this day, and so I train every day with this because I love it so much. But when I first moved to Florida, I got invited. I was at the gym and I was like, I had a network, Mr. Introvert over here. I'm like, man, I got no clients. I moved all the way down here. I got to hustle. So I'm like, I'm gonna meet 50 people every day. I heard that somewhere. So I started doing with the grocery store. I went out. Oh man, it was so unpleasant to me. I had to shift it, make it fun. And so people, and I'm like a new guy, it's funny, but I got invited. This guy was like, he looked like you. You're better looking, of course. But he had his head shaved, he's jacked, right? but the old bodybuilding tank tops from the 80s that were like the spaghetti strap thing.
Yeah.
And so he's he's basically shirtless talking to me. And I'm like, hi, man. He's like, hey, man, I saw you train. So you're into martial arts? I'm like, yeah, a little bit. And he's like, I go to this place. You should come to this class. I'll meet you at the gym. I'll pick you up. And I'm like, I'm getting in a car with some dude I don't know. And he had this black convertible. And I'm like, I hope this isn't a date. I'm a new guy. And so, but he's super cool. And, but I'm just not into dudes. But we get there and it's in a warehouse. And I'm like, oh man, what is this? I go in and there's people and no one's really talking. They're just standing there and everyone's in a straight line. I was like, wow, this is discipline. And this guy comes out, an Israeli commando, and he goes, line up, motherfuckers. And we're all lined up, but he said it anyway. And he goes like this, and he knows I'm a new guy because this is a regular class. And he goes, in any encounter, there is a victim and an attacker. You decide. Then he goes, Billy Beck the third, and he waved me up. Then he proceeded to render me partially disabled on the right side of my body. I was like, this is the worst class ever. I trained with him for 12 years. Still a friend of mine. Oh, but it's that, and you decide who's the victim, who's the attacker. And I just love that. And I think that's a great way of looking at life, any situation, no matter what happens. And some people may not like the word attacker, but who's the leader? Who's the follower? Who is in command here? And the person that takes responsibility. The person that says, hey, this may not be the way I want it, but I'm here to make it better. And I'm going to do my damnedest to make that happen. That's a leader. And I think we all need that. It's not like a lot of people want to be led because they don't think they're enough. They don't think they're strong enough. But people are not weak. They simply act weak. And acting is a choice. And so the way you get strong is you decide who you want to become. You write the movie script of your life. You wake up in the morning, you look at it. You let it get in your mind. Because when you first wake up, you're in a theta brainwave state. You're in a trance. It's like hypnosis. Just look at it. Have it printed out. Just look at it and let it sink in there. And stand up when you do it. Don't sit down or lay in bed because you'll fall asleep, right? So get that in your body. Then when you train, read that again. Like what I do is I record my voice on my phone and I listen to it on repeat as I'm training. And so now I'm being reminded who I am, why I'm here, and where I'm going. I just again and again while I'm doing difficult things and pushing myself. So it goes deeper in the nervous system. Then before you go to sleep, review your day. Look back at the day and say, okay, what was my plan? What happened? What did I learn today? And what's the most important tomorrow? And then say, okay, and what's my North Star? And then you think about your North Star as you fall asleep. And whatever, I learned this from a sports psychologist that worked with a lot of NFL players. But whatever you focus on those 15 minutes before you fall asleep is repeated in the subconscious mind 17 times in an 8-hour sleep cycle. So it's like sleep programming in a way. But we've all know this is true because you're a little kid, you watch a scary movie, you have nightmares, right? Mm-hmm. And so you watch the news or something and you don't sleep good. Or you just have something on your mind you're thinking about as you fall asleep, something stressful, and you can't fall asleep or you don't sleep very good, you feel exhausted. And so there are these 3 opportunities when you're training, when you first wake up and go to sleep, that we can program our mind. But it's our responsibility to wire ourselves up. We have given that responsibility away. We've let the people that are marketing to us, the people, leaders in government or something, like them dictate how we should be.
Yeah.
But we can't do that because we need to be stronger.
It's critically important. You know, I think you knew this because we were texting on the schedule to get here for the podcast, but I was just in Morocco in the desert with my mastermind group. And one of the things that we had talked about in one of the sessions was what are some of the rituals that we use? And every night before I go to sleep, I do a gratitude flood.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I flood my system with all the things I'm gratitude. You know, it's like my kids, my daughter, my son, my wife, my ex-wife, it's just like everybody who I'm so grateful for in my life that, you know, are the people that work for us and work with us and, you know, our executive team and our people that are just out there, with our frontline customers every single day. I'm just, you know, that's the programming that, and as it kind of relates, I just wanted to circle back for the audience, you know, one of my takeaways, which I thought was unbelievable, you know, you'd kind of frame those four thoughts. Problems are, life is people are, and I am. But when you were talking about people are, it's like, I remember a time when I used to think like people are a pain in the ass.
Yeah, me too.
And you know, as I was reflecting back and as you were saying it, I was scrolling up in my iPad here on my notes and I'm like, you know, it's interesting. And I just wanted to use your content and your message for the listeners and just kind of recap it. But this is where that piece comes in. It's like, you know, and for the audience, and I mean, and I'm sharing this really because it happens to me all the time, like multiple times a day, where it's like, you know, somebody would be driving slow and I'm just like, oh, fuck, people are a pain in the ass. Like the old programming pops in, right? Now, now what I, you know, when you were going through and I was like, what, you know, life is, and I was like, life's a game. It's a journey, right? It's a beautiful journey. Like those, you know, I was trying to frame like what would be popping in my mind when you're asking those questions. And now, like the first thing I thought of, people are beautiful. You know, so I've reframed that. But there are times where I go from people are beautiful to people are a pain in the ass, and then I have to have a way to get myself back to people are beautiful, right? Because you can look, we are we live on our egos, and judgment is a part of ego. And so but I wanted to use your content and just remind the audience, it's like, this is where that self-awareness piece is, like being aware that all of a sudden you're like, oh, this guy's a pain in the ass. It's like, you know, first being aware, like you're telling yourself a story there, number one. Number two, you know, self-honesty. Is that true? Is it really true that person is a pain in the ass? And then that, what I loved was that personal responsibility. You have a responsibility to yourself and to the people around you, and then back to your leadership, where you go, hey, wait a second. No, people are beautiful. Where's the beauty in this? Like, where could I find the beauty? And so I just wanted to frame, you know, a personal experience for me. As a matter of fact, it happened this morning. somebody was driving really, really slow. It's like, and I was like, oh, this guy's, I could hear, I think I said it to Neil. I was like, oh, this guy's such a pain in the ass. and then I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
It's like,
you caught yourself.
I did catch myself. Yeah, I did catch myself.
That's awareness.
Like right away, you want to lay on the horn, like which they're famous for here in Florida is like honking at everybody.
Oh, I do it all the time. It cracks me up. I do it just to laugh but like the big thing was you caught yourself, right?
Right. And that's what I really wanted to bring for the audience. It's like, guys, this is going to happen. You're going to, we try to grow, and I've loved everything that you framed here. It's beautiful. And as humans, we are going to fall down. We are going to slip back. And, that piece of those 3 steps of self-awareness, self-honesty, and self-responsibility are just so powerful and how it threads through, like even the example of your content, of your message of the, of the, what do you call that? There's the 4 options. Is that what you call it? The 4 options people are, life is,
no, I haven't given it a name yet, actually, but I would say the 4 core beliefs.
Yeah.
But there are other ones. There's more. There's actually 12. But the thing that I think people that would put a bow on a lot of this for people is that, sometimes people do suck. Sometimes I suck, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes people are a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And so not to be just like, oh, people are always beautiful. That's who they are at their nature is that. But we have free will and we can decide, usually unconsciously, because the environment's sculpting us, we can get overwhelmed and then we start acting like a jerk, right? But just because there's a good way, one of my clients said this, but there's a quote from Theodore Roosevelt, my favorite president ever, first American to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, I'll tell you about him. Yeah, really? Oh man, he's the best. I'll tell you a story about him too. But I'll stay on point here. It doesn't matter. Excited. But you say people are, I am. There are 2 versions of that. There's the lion version and the lamb version. Mm. So when you're the lion, you say people are. We say people are beautiful. They're children of God. We all are, right? You see the best of them, but you see the truth because love is truth. That will give you a clear vision of what's real and what's not. But love will also tell you, you know what? That's their nature, but sometimes their behavior is different. And so that would be an accurate statement. So like people are beautiful at their core. Sometimes they choose not to be, right?
Yep.
Or life gets tough. But people are either being who they really are, which is some extension of love-based emotion, or they're hurt on some level, or they're scared. So if you're hurt or scared, if you're hurt, you're angry, right? So those are the scary ones, right? Like when I get my feelers hurt, I get mean, and I'm like, and then but it's like for a moment, and then I start cracking up because I'm like, this is my profession. How would other people do this? This is what I do all day long, and I still catch myself sometimes.
Right.
So it's self-mastery is not about being perfect. It's about striving to be your best, striving to be who you really are. That you're like your highest and best self, but that's not perfect. So we have to understand, like, what's our state of being? Are we being the lion or the lamb right now? Are we in fear? Because our beliefs change. We have a different set of beliefs. We have a different set of rules when we're in fear than we do when we're in love-based emotion. Does that make sense?
No, 100% It makes sense. Yeah, no, it's, you talked about it earlier about the observer, right? Being able to be an observer is so critical to that awareness piece. And I don't know if you use it, but I've used I think it's called Waking Up app with Sam Harris.
Oh yeah.
Great 10-minute meditation, really focuses on, exactly that, being the observer, the conscious mind, and, being able to see things go by and not get yourself attached to it. So if anybody is like, I really recommend, that app it's been powerful for me. Give it a try, 7-day free trial. I think they have on that thing, but yeah, anyways.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so with this whole thing, it's my hope and my wish for the listeners that they realize that they are the creator of their circumstance. They're never a victim of it, and that they were born to be leaders. They weren't born to be told what to do and being stuck in life. Like, you should have a compelling, like what the North Star process does. It's something I got from Tony. I remember we were flying and we were in the Middle East, and he was meeting with one of the royalty there. And he's into fitness. So I was there and I was like, oh, I'll step out of the room because he's starting to coach kind of. He's asking some questions and he's like, no, stay. And I was like, all right. And so I'm listening. It's really cool because I'm hearing the whole conversation. And I'm like, all right. I was like, I can never tell anyone this.
Except on Dwayne's podcast.
I know, except Dwayne's podcast. I can't tell the details because I'll go missing probably.
Yeah,
I have a lot of respect for them. And then we were leaving a few days later at the airport, and Tony Robbins loves people more than anyone.
It's
like when humanity suffers, Tony Robbins suffers more. Like he really cares. I never seen anything like it. He's a way better man than me.
That's true. I can.
You're not supposed to say that's true. Yeah. You're just be like, no, you're the best.
No, he is. He cares so much.
He really does,
it
right?
Really
like that guy never needs to work a day in his life again, and he works hard just helping people. Like I won't spill all the beans, but I'm there with him a lot, and it's incredible what him and Sage, his wife, how they live. They're really devoted to humanity.
They're servants of There's no question.
Yeah, and so we're leaving the airport a couple days, and there's someone like helping us with the plane. And then Tony somehow, like we have security to keep Tony away from people, I always say, not the other way around, because he'll stop talking to me. I'm like, we got to leave. We can't land in the next place if we don't leave now. And so I'm standing there, and it's like 1,000 degrees outside. I'm dripping with sweat, but it's evaporating before it even forms. I'm like, we got to go. And so I hear the conversation, and we get on a plane, and it was almost the same advice. And I was like, isn't that crazy? That's like the same advice. And he goes, Billy, that's all humans. And the lesson was, the underlying theme of it was that if you don't have a compelling vision of the future, you're likely to suffer. And you're not going to have something you're looking forward to. We should always have something we're looking forward to. And how do we do that? We decide. We create something. Like sometimes it's something simple, like, hey, I'm gonna have a vacation, a 1-day vacation, because I'm in a stage of life where it's really hard to go away that long, right? Like I'm on a 1-day vacation with the person I love, and with no interruptions. Like that could be something someone could look forward to, but it could be anything. It's whatever has meaning to you, but you need some sort of compelling vision. Like with your body, you need a compelling vision in the future. If your belief about aging is that you get worse every day and it's just part of life and you're going to suffer and it's going to suck, you're not going to do the little things each day that are going to prevent that from happening, because you're living out that story you're telling already. So we need to rewrite the story. You're the author of the story. You got to pick up the pen and then write it out.
So if you don't mind, one of the things I love doing, and this has been an amazing, like truly amazing conversation, Billy, like in regards to, the psychology of moving forward, if I was just to put a bumper sticker on it, right? Or the psychology of growth, and the things that you shared. If we just take, for the audience and the listener who's sitting there going, okay, but how do I apply this in my everyday life? Because to me, that is one of the most critical things, is how do we, wherever we're at. So if we're a dabbler, if we're, a committed achiever, or if we're the magician, and let's just use your center of influence for, forever has been, personal, I'll call it fitness, vitality, energy, wherever you want to frame it, as a listener, whatever you want to take it. But I can assure you, Billy is like an expert in this field. So if you're a dabbler and you going to move through this process that you've kind of outlined, the North Star, the VIP, the 4 questions of belief, what would your advice be from a dabbler's position to where they can start to feel that confidence of progress and evolution and development on this journey that they're going forward on?
If you're a dabbler, you're already unsatisfied with life. And you may just believe that's the way life is for you, and you're just the type of person that's destined to that life. So how do you know if you're a dabbler? Well, 1, you'd be unsatisfied. But 2 is, do you know what you want? So if, like, take an area of your life and say, like, hey, what do I want? What's my vision for this area of my life? And if you don't have one, you're dabbling, because that is important. You need that goal. You need that vision. So if you're not striving to anything, what are you doing? You're treading water. You can only tread water so long before you start to drown, right? And so dabbler is pretty easy to identify. You're also bouncing around a lot of things. Like it's funny with podcasts, right? Like a lot of people sell things and promote things on podcasts. Nothing wrong with that. But when you're a dabbler, those are the people you want because they will buy this stuff and never use it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Those are the people that sign up in the gym in January and never come back, right? So the dabbler is just not making progress because they don't have a clear vision or purpose or anything really. They've accepted a fate. A story's been written for them based off their environment. They adopted beliefs without really knowing it. And they're like, this is life. You know, sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I'm not. There's not much I can do about it. Now, the committed achiever.
Sorry, before we move on from dabbler. So if you're the dabbler, then the first step is I need to create a vision, sitting down and really, and what would be the, like, you know, so for me, like, especially when it comes to working on my identities and that kind of stuff or creating a vision, it's sometimes I've asked the question, I think this came from Stephen Covey. I think he's the guy that I first heard this about, what is writing your eulogy, right? So like if it's around physical fitness, it's like, okay, well, what would I want the people that I go, that would, if they come to my funeral, the people from the gym, what would I want them to say? Or if I was on a team, or if I was, or my kids, you know, what would I want my family to say about that portion of my life, you know, to be able to start to frame out? But is there something, you know, that's what I do. Like that's a technique I've used in the past, but what could you say, or what advice could you give that would help the dabbler start to really hone in on creating that vision? What would that be?
So if you don't have a vision, that's what you're asking. If you don't have a vision and you're trying to make some progress.
Yeah. Because they'll be, you know, like you said, like that dabbler just kind of stays there. Like it's like every year they re-sign at the gym in January. They don't, by, you know, Valentine's Day, they're gone, you know, and they don't ever get back because they can't lock in onto the vision. And it's like, you know, because I think some people's even vision is like, well, I've got, you know, I got to go to the gym. I got to do it at the gym. Well, that's not true. There's so many other places or so many other sports.
I don't think any of my clients train at the gym, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I built everyone's program. So here's something that's interesting. I had these beliefs about training. So I thought you had to go to the gym. You had to have all this equipment. You had to have the temperature at a certain level, right? I have a lot of beliefs about this. And there had to be some people, but not too many people, and they couldn't be on my stuff. So I had all these beliefs. So a lot of times I'd get frustrated when I was training and I would have a terrible workout. And this went on for a while. And then a study came out, Brad Schoenfeld, I think it was 2011. And it said that what's better, light weights or heavy weights? And I grew up with the belief that you go heavy or go home, right? Like if you want to build muscle,
right? And
then like light weights tone you and stuff. And we find out that's not true. So it showed that lighter weights, like a weight you could lift 30 times would build a similar amount of muscle as a weight you could only lift like 5 times, because it is the challenge that matters. That's the stimulus. But if you lift a heavy weight one time that you could lift 20 times, it's not going to do much. So you need to challenge yourself. You need to come within about 3 reps of the point where your form breaks. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, but your muscles don't know the difference between like an $80,000 machine, some biohacking machine or whatever, and a dumbbell and a rock or a band or a cable. Like resistance is resistance to the muscle. It does not know the difference. And so you need to challenge. So you could use just body weight. And I remember I lived on the beach in Florida here, and there was like a broad walk, and I'd run down into the pull-up bars like on the weekends. And there was always this dude there, and he was just like shredded. He was older than me. I think he was 58 at the time. And, you know, we're always there. So we would talk every now and then. And then one day I was just like, man, what gym do you go to? I just assumed he went to a gym. He's like, I never been to a gym a day in my life. I was like, what? I was like, well, how did you build all that muscle? He goes, you never seen a gymnast? And I was like, yeah, I guess I never thought. I never thought of that. Point,
actually, yeah. I didn't think about it either. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he'd always say funny shit. He's like, you ever see a rock climber? And like, you just go through these every now and then, not even on the same day, just like messing with me. He's like I was just kind of stupid. I was stupid. I was really honed in because my identity is this guy that owns gyms and this is the best way. But I've evolved the way I look at things because one, I want to empower people. I want them to know, hey, if you can't go to the gym, it doesn't matter. And honestly, gyms now are the worst place to train because people are recording stuff. People are looking at their phone. They're not actually training. Yeah. They're exercising. So this is a big thing I teach my clients. And so training and exercise are different. A lot of people exercise. Very few people train because training is a sacred act. It is a spiritual process where you intentionally and intelligently challenge your mind and body to access your highest and best self, to summon the lion. And when I say that, I'm talking about the part of you that's timeless. Like when I was a kid, my grandma passed away and I was maybe 5, 6, 7, somewhere around there. And, my family was there and they had her hooked up to the machines and she's been out of it for a while. And they're like, she's gone. And I was like, no, grandma's right here because her body was there. And the EKG and the EEG, there's no electrical activity. And so, my grandfather said, no, see the machine, that's the electric going through grandma's body. She went to heaven. And in that moment, I never forgot that because I was like, we're not our bodies. So many people think they're their body. And so they judge their body and they're judging them, their own identity. And that's really harmful because your behavior is shaped by how you view yourself. And so you are this electrical charge. That's what you are. That's what I am. That's what we all are. And that part of us is timeless. It's infinite. It's eternal. And when we talk about going to the observer, we're going up to that third person, that higher self that can see it all and is detached from it in a healthy way and can guide you. That's the inner guide. You call it your guardian angel if you want. Some people do. And so we all have that part of ourselves, but we have to learn to trust it and to communicate with it. Like when you do martial arts, when you do real martial arts, I should say, that is part of what you're taught. You're not taught I always thought it was about kicking people's ass. And then that's not what it's about.
No.
So when you get to a higher level, you're called a martial artist, not a fighter. And you realize that you'll be practicing like these 8 things millions of times. So there's this great quote from, this is the essence of self-mastery. And self-mastery is the gateway to living greatly. And Bruce Lee was being interviewed. And at the time, he was the first person to take a little bit from all different systems and create one, which was a big no-no because this is a tradition. And so it was like karate or kung fu. Like you would have these different.
You had to choose.
Yeah. And so people, they would challenge each other in real fights to see which one. And if you win, you're the one, yours is the best. Right. And so he's being interviewed and there was this guy that's saying he knows 10,000 different kicks. And they asked Bruce Lee if he was afraid of it. He goes, I don't fear the man that knows 10,000 different kicks. I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. And that's the essence of self-mastery. So to get really fit and have a lot of vitality, it doesn't require you to do a million different things. It requires you to do, a handful of things millions of times. That's what it is. That's why you need to be that devoted and humble student of self-mastery because it's not sexy. It's super simple. But everyone's looking for the new shit because they're the dabbler, right? Or they're working their ass off as a committed achiever and they're suffering and they're not making progress. So they're looking for something new all the time. But really their entire approach, their philosophy is off. Because when you say because you know what it takes to be in great shape, you live it. You've done it since you were 16.
Yeah.
And so there's a handful of things you do and you don't always want to do them. But if you can master your mind, because your thoughts create the way you feel. The story you tell is your thought. That's your stream of consciousness, right? So you need to be aware of that. And if you know what you're thinking, then you can predict how you're going to feel, right? And the way you feel really colors the portrait of our life, what actions we take and what inactions we take, right? And that's the formula for life. That's why self-mastery is the awareness, management, and eventual mastery of your thoughts, emotions, and actions.
So my cap on that is if you're a dabbler, create your vision, really, sit down and really create the vision of where you see yourself, attach it to a purpose or a reason or why, you want to accomplish that, whether it's for you, your kids, your longevity, good example, guys, I don't train now to really look good. I'm actually I'm training now. My purpose is to be the best grandparent that I can be.
That's a real purpose.
And I don't even have grandkids. But I know I'm going to have grandkids. Right. So that is why I'm training now. It's
and you plan ahead. That's another thing you do.
Well, yeah, so it's just guys, it's encouraging you because I really am passionate. I'm obviously passionate about health and fitness, but that is the vitality of, what you will be in the future. And so link it to the purpose and then eventually start to build your identity around, become that person before you're that person.
Yep. You have to feel, here's a really good test. Ask yourself, describe what you want to create. Describe what you want your life to be. And when you describe it, you need to be able to feel what it feels like as if it already happened, because that feeling tone is what will pull you towards it. So you have to create an alignment with that. And so, but you got to ask yourself this, how can you create something that you can't describe? You can't.
That's right.
You got to be able to do that. So this sounds so simple, so elementary, but so few people do it. But the ones that are successful, not just successful, but fulfilled, they think of these things. Like, you're a really conscious man. Like, you think about this. You think about what your goals are and your actions and how that's going to affect your wife, for instance, right? Like, that's always part of it. That's like one and the same. And you have a great relationship because of it. Now, some people don't do that. And then the spouse feels left out and they feel separated. But really, we having that higher level of self-awareness, self-honesty, and that personal responsibility is part of the lion. That's part of you as your highest and best self. Like, those are traits of being successful, happy, and fulfilled.
It's funny that you say that, and the way you just integrated that with, I literally had a conversation this morning at the gym. I just finished my workout and I was talking to this guy. He walked up to me and we just started talking. And he was telling me the story. And I literally have only met him once before. And, but he's an ex-pro football player and he wants to drop, he's, defensive guy. I think he was, but he's a big man. He's a big dude, super strong, but he wants to lose 50 pounds, but his wife doesn't want him to lose the weight because she's afraid that he'll be attractive to other people.
That's fear.
Yeah.
It's control. That's what it is.
Right. Yeah. And those are real life things that are going on. It was it was crazy that he was telling me this story. And I'm like, I'm coming to see you today to do the podcast.
From my perspective, it's his responsibility, knowing that she feels that way, to assure her that that's not going to happen.
That's right.
You know what I mean? I think that's the man's responsibility.
100%. And that's what we talked about. We went in depth.
You're a good friend.
You're a good friend. And pretty in depth about listen, here's some things here's what I've experienced in the past. And so. And
you're speaking from a place of success. You know what I mean?
I think I'm speaking from a position of progress. I don't think I've arrived at any level of success.
There's a certain level of success.
Well, but I'm in pursuit of the progress of.
I appreciate your
being
your
a constantly
humility.
better person. But so if you're a committed achiever, do you likely have a vision?
You have a goal, probably.
Okay.
But your purpose is the outcome, right? You're always going for the goal. I did this for most of my life. And so it was okay, what's my goal? What's my goal? And I would not go to parties. I would sacrifice things. Everything was about getting that goal and making progress. But you don't really celebrate anything until you hit a goal. And then you almost immediately set another goal or just go off the rails. Right. And so when and then have to set a new goal.
Yeah.
Here's the thing the committed achiever says, I'm all in or all out. I'm 100%. I have to be perfect, or I'm not going to do it all because I have to be perfect. And so it's a part, the over expression of the committed achiever is the perfectionist.
Got it.
Yeah. And so there's an over expression and under expression to all these. And so committed achiever, there's nothing wrong with it, but there's a limitation to it. So if you want to live, a higher level in your life, a more fulfilling life, if you want to achieve more with less effort and really enjoy it, there's a higher consciousness level, a better way of doing it. And that's instead of being in the future all the time, that's the other thing. So the committed achiever is always in the future, chasing that goal, chasing that goal, chasing the goal. The devoted and humble student of self-mastery is present. It's a state of beingness. So it's being in the highest level. The committed achiever is a state of doing. And the dabbler is a state of feeling, of pleasure, chasing pleasure, chasing pleasure. That's why people will get hooked on social media or video games and stuff because that's what's designed to do. So if you indulge in it, it's going to wire you up that way.
Right. That's good. So if you're the magician and when it comes to health and vitality or training or whatever people frame it, and where are they where's their focus? Where are they living, if you will, in their mind in terms of in the workout, after the workout, before the workout? Like, what does that look like?
Well, I would say it's like this. It's you have to have a story for your life, like a philosophy for your life. A part of being the devoted, humble student is you have to believe in something bigger than yourself. Because the committed achiever oftentimes thinks if it is to be, it is up to me, as the old phrase goes. And it's you versus the world. When you think the world is just like you versus the world, it's overwhelming, right? And so you live in fear a lot. We call it stress. The committed achiever calls it stress. But when you're at this, when you're focused on beingness, you know that you're a part of a greater wholeness. So there's a oneness to everything. So your actions affect all others. So it's not like the committed achiever can get stuck in selfishness a lot because they're like, I got to hit this goal. And so they won't be there sometimes when people need them, right? That's an overexpression of it, right? It's too much. That doesn't mean you have to do that. There's a balance to these things. But the devoted, humble student of self-mastery knows wholly. They have taken the time to decide who they are. But whatever you affirm for yourself, you must affirm for others. And that's really important because then life's a competition and that comes from the ego and there's always someone better. And so you go back to that place. If you're competing, you're never enough. And so like, think about it in sports. They're like, who's the GOAT? Like in basketball, who's the GOAT? It's Michael Jordan. No, it's Kobe. It's LeBron James, right? It doesn't matter. They never played each other, right?
Right.
And there's no way of knowing. So it's going to be an argument forever. And then there'll be someone else. But comparison is the thief of joy. And so until the real competition is this, and it's a beautiful competition. It's the big you versus the little you. It's your soul, your spirit, that lion in you versus the learned self. The part of you develop, the personality you develop, the ego you developed when you were a kid and you're trying to survive. You develop most of your beliefs by the age of 7. And then those first 7 years of life, you're in a theta brainwave state. Just like when we wake up now or go to sleep, we're like sponges. We pick up all these things on accident, just in an effort to try to get food, shelter, and to survive. And so what we got to do though is upgrade those beliefs as we go through life, because the very things that may have served us early in life, we've outgrown them. And it's like having your phone and never upgrading the software. Eventually it doesn't work, right? Or it starts getting all buggy and everything. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. And that's the same thing with our minds. We have to constantly have this level of awareness to be that observer and saying like, if you have a negative emotion, this is how you do it. People are like, this is how you change your limiting beliefs. There's not really, it's a lifelong process. You get into, say you're driving and someone pisses you off and you're like, screw you, whatever it is. In that moment, there's an opportunity because that feeling, that emotional state is feedback. That's the gauge. It's like when you're driving, you look at the fuel tank, like, do I need to get fuel? It's just feedback. There's nothing wrong with you. But when we're little, what happens? I just seen this happen. So it reminds me, I have a bunch of godchildren. And so I'm very cognizant of how people talk to kids right now. And there was this kid and the kid was just standing there, just looked fine to me. They're like, hey, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you happy? And I'm like, that's a terrible thing to say. And I'm like, I do that to people. Oh my God. Yeah. I'm like, I do that sometimes. Like, hey, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you happy? And it's like, oh man, that's messed up. Like, you're not supposed to be happy all the time. Because if there wasn't hate, you wouldn't fully know what love is. If there wasn't anger, you wouldn't really know what peace is. Like, you need contrast in order to fully experience and appreciate life. So like, if everything was perfect all the time, everything was loving and blah, 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 it would get old, right? People would start doing messed up stuff just to experience something different, to get variety in their life.
Right.
And so everything has a purpose and life is a game. So as you go back, whatever you do, you want to start looking at your beliefs, have that level of awareness, go into the observer, notice the negative emotion and say, hey, what must I believe in order for that to make me feel like that and make me act that way? Like, I reacted in this way. Well, what's the rule I'm living by that triggers that? And so if you're watching the news, politics is a good one. I love politics because it pisses people off. It cracks me up because they're like, I'm like, you're a sheep. Come on, relax.
It is always the divider. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
But you think about it, the real truth is that everything is connected, right? Just like when I talked about the spider web with the body, like if you affect your shoulder joint, like if you affect your foot, like one of my clients had a cut on his foot. So he started walking differently. Then his back started hurting. Then his other shoulder started hurting. It's all connected because his whole posture changed. So in order to fix his back, we had to make sure he could walk right. Right. And so really simple things, but that's a microcosm to a macrocosm. Right. So like all our society is connected. Like every person is connected on some level. And so we have to appreciate that. We don't have to. We should choose to appreciate that and understand that if someone's acting differently than you would act, that's beautiful. Because if everyone acted like you ever play a game where people mimic you?
It'd be...
You know, like when people say, like, we'll just repeat everything you say and it drives you insane, like that thing kids do.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's what life would be like. We'd all kill ourselves.
Annoying as shit.
Yeah. I was like...
It's funny. Like, it's like people complain so much because somebody's different or but yet if it wasn't that way, like you say, it would be just so boring.
Yeah. And there's a group of people in the world, and I think they're just wired up from society. It's not something, but if someone believes differently, they think they should be destroyed. Their life should be ruined, or they should be dead. Like that is a really extreme thing. That's a dangerous thing, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we need to be able to disagree about things, because that's how we innovate. We challenge each other. We look at different things. And then some things you're just not going to enjoy because some people are, really suffering. And when someone's like that, they don't feel like they're enough. Like I saw this thing on the news. I don't watch the news and stuff. I saw a clip, and this girl, she was massively overweight, and like her hair was like shaved down. She had a lot of piercings in her face, tattoos everywhere. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's a sign. I want attention, right? I want to be different. I want to be significant, yep. Right? And so she goes up into this government building. There's something they're voting on, like they're hearing people. And she just starts screaming. And I'm like, people are just going to think you're crazy now. You're not going to, if you have a message and what you need to be able to communicate in a way where people will hear you. People are just making fun of you now. Then anything you say after that's going to be linked up with that. And they'll be like, hey, crazy people believe this. And probably not even crazy, just really hurting inside and doesn't understand what's happening because super young, right?
Right.
And so just having the compassion for others and saying like, hey, I wonder why they're acting that way, because that's not natural, right? Like, there's I got a flat tire. I actually have a warehouse over here. My gym's in, like 2 minutes from here. I could have walked there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so I was over there. This happened a couple of years ago, and my tire just exploded. They're like new tires. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Sound like a gunshot. And so I pull over and I'm changing it. And this guy, African-American guy, he's real tall, comes over, and he's carrying like a bag and stuff. And he's like, hey, you need a hand? I'm like, oh no, thanks for asking, but you can, I don't need help. I'm okay. And then I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I saw him and he's still standing there. I'm like, oh, he must be wanting something else. And I was like, you can hang out with me if you want, keep me company. And, he's real friendly. So we're just talking. He told me he was in combat and he had like an insulin pump. And he goes, I'm homeless. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, you don't seem like you're homeless. He goes, well, that's just my status. That's just temporary. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And, but he got emotional. Like he started to cry for a second. And so I said a little joke to help him out, and then, we talked for a while, and then, he was helping me anyway, even though I said he had to help me. He's just being friendly, helping me. And I just happened to have a ton of cash in my pocket. And, cause I'll have cash at certain times to give it away to people just cause it's good mojo and I like doing it. Yep. And so I gave him like, I don't know how much it was. It was a lot. And more than someone would normally give, right? And I was like, hey, go grab yourself something to eat. Thanks for helping me. And he just grabbed me, didn't look at it, put it in his pocket. And then he went in a little store. There was a store there, and he came out and he was like so emotional and hugging me. And I was like, man, if you're getting emotional, I wouldn't have gave you all that money. But it was funny. And he's not homeless anymore. He's turned his life around. It was really cool.
That's awesome.
But his identity was he's not homeless. He said, he goes, I sleep. He didn't say he was homeless. He said, I sleep in the park over here. I was like, you're homeless? And he goes, no, I'm not homeless.
Oh, that's
so
he didn't have the identity.
Yeah, he did.
Right.
I almost gave it to him, and he was like, no. He refused.
He threw that shit away.
Yeah, he refused the story of limitation that I almost accidentally gave him. Right. Yeah. And so I think there's a big story in that, not letting anyone imprint their story on yours, because you are the author of the story. You write it, you decide. And so up to this point, if your life isn't going the way you want, I can promise you there's someone that's life has been worse, and they turned it around. And if one person can do it, anyone can do it. But you are the creator of your circumstance by the stories you tell, your thoughts and beliefs. Beliefs are just automated thoughts. They're just their rules our brain created to make it easy to take information from the environment and utilize it. That's what beliefs are. But we got to become aware of them. So we need that level of awareness. We need to be in that observer. And then that's going to create our emotional states. And training is important. Training is the daily ritual of calling forth your highest and best self. And when you do that to be the best grandfather you can be, now when you train, like you have purpose, but it's not just you, it's bigger because we're part of a whole. It's not just us. When we make it just about us, there's a reason why it doesn't last. It's a reason why it's kind of sucks. And because it's not the truth. The truth is we're part of this whole thing. Like if you don't exist or you're sick, think about all the people that are affected by that, right? Like there's a lot. And like I think about that all the time. Like when I had owned my gyms and I had a staff, I thought about every person that I paid because I knew they paid their bills because of the business. And so I would make decisions based off of that. And that was not always reciprocated though. And so like it hurt my feelings at times because like I was like, oh, I thought they were my friend. But they looked at me like a boss, right? Because I have control over them in a lot of ways. And I never thought of it that way, but they thought it that way. And they were accurate. I was in la la land. I'm like, oh, we're a family. Like, no, we're not. I'm just being honest. We're not a family.
Yeah.
You know, like you could screw me over anytime and you'll be fine. I'll never see you again, you know, and vice versa. But it's like we not only have to be aware of ourselves, but aware of others, but not in a judgmental way. And the difference is judgment and discernment. Judgment would be putting a label on people like, oh, they're an asshole, right?
Right.
Where discernment is, you know, they're behaving in a way where it's really hard to like them, right? It's like, wonder why they're behaving that way. This is something, give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, hey, is there something else going on with them? There probably is, right? And if you don't know, just assume the best of people. Otherwise, you're going to start to create a lot of stories that hold you back.
Well, and that becomes the problem, right? And that, you know, I think when you look at most people who are not achieving what they desire in life, they're stuck in a story about why they don't have it, who isn't giving it to them, you know, whether it's the government, whether it's their boss, whether it's their, you know, their customer, like that. But you said it, like you have control. You have the ability to influence what you achieve in this world.
Yeah. And the belief of knowing you're in command, but it comes down to you. You're responsible. Again, it might not be your fault. Something terrible could happen. Like we just came back from Israel not that long ago, right before the attacks there and stuff. And it's interesting when they have these protests and stuff. And maybe this isn't something I'm supposed to talk about, but I talk about everything. You can always cut it out. And but it's interesting. I was watching these street interviews on the protest. Like the people are in America, safe place, right? Doing a protest at a college that they don't pay for, their parents pay for. And I'm thinking, wow, I'd really like to know what they believe. So I was like, hey, there's got to be some interviews. So I'm watching these interviews, trying to understand their perspective. And they're asking these people at these protests, and they're like, and they ask them, this was the question. They go, hey, what are you protesting? And they're like, and looks at her friend and says, hey, what are we protesting here? And I don't know. And like, we just heard they were protesting and they needed our help. So we came down. Like they have no clue what they're protesting. Mm-hmm. And then so what they did was they started asking, and these started hitting the internet. People started seeing it and they sounded silly. And so they started telling them, don't do interviews, don't talk to anybody. And so every time interviews went up, they wouldn't talk to them anymore. And so it was like this massive miscommunication, right? Where if someone could just be able to communicate like, hey, this is what I think, this is what I understand. I'm not sure what's true, but we don't want people to die on either side. Like that's a good beginning, right? Yep. But what happens is now you create division between these people that are protesting and the people that think that they're on one side or the other side, right? Ultimately, it's not good when people kill each other. I think we can all agree on that. But you also have to defend yourself. And so, if you run those scenarios through a million different people, you get a million different beliefs. But what ultimately comes down, the thing that unifies us is love. Love conquers all, and love is always the answer. And until we can forgive ourselves and others, we're always going to have these things. We're always going to create separation. But there's an old phrase, So the Roman armies, how did they dominate the world? So they had this strategy. They did this through Gaul and Germania, and they would go out and they would send scouts out and they would attack a neighboring village and make it look like it was their neighbors. And so they'd all battle each other, destroy each other, weaken their armies. Then the Roman army would come in and obliterate
Coming
them.
in and just
Yeah, with
clean
easy.
up the leftovers.
Yeah, but
right?
divide and conquer.
Mm-hmm.
That's the strategy being used today, just like any other. And I don't know if there's anyone trying to do it on purpose. I think it's how you sell stuff to people. If you want people to buy advertising on your media network, you got to get people to watch it. How do you get people to watch it? Well, create fear. People, well, if you have a headline that says like killer tornado destroys entire city, and they're like, people are gonna click on
They're
that.
Tune in on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it's something like, hey, puppy wins the state fair, no one watches that. I don't even know that means anything.
Well, no, but that's the social network appeal, right? It's like you actually made a comment earlier about just a few minutes ago about self-love or forgiving self. Where do you think that comes into play in regards to the development and progress of whatever you're trying to achieve, whether it's health, whether it's business? I mean, because everything we've talked about here today is like, there's not one of these things that you couldn't apply to your personal life, to your business life, or to your physical and, to your relationships, all that kind of stuff. So, but I'm curious what your take is on self-forgiveness.
Yeah, forgiveness is really important. It's the way it stood out to me. This is like, I think 2012. I had a client. She trained with me like 3 times a week forever. She was overweight. She didn't really make much progress because she liked to eat ice cream every night. And but she was doing it to soothe herself. And I didn't really understand what I was doing back then. And so I'm like, hey, she's exercising. That's great, And she seemed to be happy. But, she wanted to lose weight, but she just didn't think it was possible. And I wasn't picking up on that at the time. And her mom was very controlling, like out of love though. Like she wants the best for her, and she would keep saying stuff about her weight and say like, oh, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. You're never going to get married. And she's super successful, right? Like in her business and everything. And so she read a book. I don't know what the book was or anything. And then she came in and she was like a different person. And I was like, hey, what's going on? Super happy. And she's like, I forgave my mom. And I forgave myself. And she started crying. And at this stage of my life, I'm like, what do I do here? I was like, hug it out. I was like, all right. But I didn't have anything to say. And so I was like curious about later on. I asked her, I was like, we got to get to a workout. What are you talking about?
Right. Let's not get into this emotional
I'm just trying
stuff.
to get it done. I'm the committed achiever at this stage of my life. I'm screwing this up big time. And then, so after this though, I had to come back and ask her because she changed the way she ate. She lost like 80 pounds in the next 9 months. And she's never gained it back.
Wow.
Because that was the thing that was the root cause. She wouldn't forgive her mom and she wouldn't forgive herself for letting her mom have that control over her. And she read this book, and it was the first time she considered it, and it had nothing to do about losing weight. And it was like when Tony had the conversation with the lady, her name was Beverly. And she changed her name to Joy on stage that day. So she changed her identity. That's what he did. I didn't finish telling you that.
Right.
And so if anyone wants to see that, look up Tony Robbins Intervention Beverly Joy. I think that will get you there. There's a short one that's like 15 minutes. And there's like the whole one on there too. It's on Robbins and Madonna's YouTube channel. It's worth watching.
Okay.
It's great. And yeah, so that was the first time. And then so that was on my radar now, like, hey, this is a possible solution to things, like just forgiveness. Then I was like, man, I need to forgive some people, because when you're in the world of competition, like I'm going to crush my competition. I'm going to be better than this person. You need to forgive those people, because I'm judging them, right? Like, oh, if they did that, I'm going to do better. And that's where I was at that stage. And so I went through and I wrote down like everyone I need to forgive. And then I lit it on fire, because I read this thing. This is hilarious. Chuck Norris. They said, Chuck Norris, I read this in a book, and Chuck Norris, anytime he had a negative thought, he would write it down on a piece of paper and light it on fire. So I was like, man, that's got to work for this, because Chuck Norris does it. That's how ridiculous I am sometimes. But it worked. And so I do that twice a year, every year. So I do it on my birthday and I do it on the 4th of July.
Right.
Because I consider those days of freedom. The day I came in the world and the day we were given freedom.
Nice. Sorry, I just Googled it. You're right. It is. So Tony Robbins, Beverly Joy. But and the reason why I just Googled it, which is, I think is important, if you are looking or struggling for that identity piece, that would be a great place to go.
Yeah.
Right?
Anything with Tony Robbins, honestly.
Yeah, obviously. But there are some specific things that are, good, really great to watch that he's done. But if that one would be, I haven't seen it. So, but if you Google that, Tony Robbins, Beverly Joy, you'll get to it, guys. Dude, this has been an amazing conversation. Like, honestly, it's like the content that you've provided is, and the message is, universal. It's timeless. That was going to be the question, was biohacking versus just do the thing. Like, I mean, look, and don't get me wrong. Like I cold plunge and I do like different stuff. Like I drink hydrogen water and like I'm a big fan. Like I've accomplished like, in the last 6 months, and we just interviewed a girl named Angie Greenshields who we work with, and she's you listen to it? Yeah. I mean, she's so great and she's so kind and so wonderful, but like my body is like transformed, like inside. It's like I feel like a different person. And so I'm like beyond grateful, but I also do think like there's this like there are people at the, the basic levels, and they're trying to do the last kind of 1%, kind of hacks. And it's like, and we talked about, if you listen to it, like she doesn't prescribe, every person is different, and not all things, one size doesn't fit all, I guess. If I was,
I would say there's a little bit of a lie about that. That's great for marketing. I used to do that. I had personal training studios. I do DNA testing and all that stuff. And too much information freezes people. It overwhelms them. And the way you really create behavior change is you take something very small and you do it consistently. Because every time you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, a little piece of you dies. Because what happens is the subconscious records it. It remembers every time you said you're going to do something and you didn't do it. So after a while, that accumulates and you start to have this identity. You start to see yourself in a way where you're like, yeah, I always say I'm going to do it, but I never do it. So it's not a big deal. There's no pain with it anymore. And so with biohacking, it started in a beautiful way. It was like, let's take intelligent action. Let's not just beat ourselves up, and let's actually measure some things and make smart decisions. It's become an industry. And when something becomes an industry, things get exaggerated, and they make claims like red light therapy burns fat. That's absurd. Is red light therapy good and beneficial? Yeah, it helps your mitochondria. You know what else does way more? Exercise. Right? Yeah. You don't need a $2,000 red light. But if you have the means for it, you can. But exercise, nutrition, mindset, sleep, hydration is 95% of your results. If you're a professional athlete and you're trying to get that last couple percent because it matters to you, that's different. Most people are at like 50%. You know what I mean? Like that's someone that's doing good. You know what I mean? Right. Most people are 0, or 8%. And so like those are the big rocks. So there's this old video, Stephen Covey used to do it. You jogged my memory. I don't know if you're seeing, he had like a time management system, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, and he had—
I used to teach it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
well, you're going to know what this is. You're
Yeah.
going to love this. But you can see it on the internet still. It's still there. But they had like they had these big rocks, you had pebbles, then you had like gravel, right? And they were in this in these separate containers, and they said, okay, you're going to fit all those into this jar. And so people would, try to jam it in there, and then people from mines couldn't do it. And then they were labeled, and the big rocks said big rocks, and they would say like family, your profession, your fitness, things like that, like important things were on the big rocks. So that was the metaphor. And you would put those in first, right? Then the pebbles were like the accessory things, like, your job, things like that, whatever it is, like cutting the grass, I don't know.
Yep.
And then you put those in, they filled in between the gaps in the big rocks. Then you took the sand, which was like the minutia of just little things that need to get done that aren't really important. And you'd pour that in and it would fill to the very top. But if you put them in any other order, it wouldn't fit in the jar.
Right.
And so it explained like, hey, what's most important? So one of the things I do with clients all the time, and I do with myself, is I'm like, here's the categories of life. So the first one I call spirit, which is love. I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about love, your state of being, like who you are. That's number one. I think that's the most important thing in life. It's a thing that connects us all, right? The second thing is your mental and physical vitality. And it's not the way you look, it's the way you feel and perform. Does your body allow you to do what you need to do? Do you have freedom in your body? And is your mind agile? Do you have good memory? What can you do to support that? So that's that physical and mental piece. Then you have your relationships. That's the third most important thing. And the reason why it's this order, if I'm not in a loving state of being and I'm in relationships, they're not going to be very good relationships, right? If I'm sick and I'm low energy or I'm in pain all the time, my relationships aren't going to be good. So that's why that order. A lot of people want to put family first because they think it's the right thing to say.
Yeah, they think it's their duty.
Right, it's their duty. No, but your duty is to be your best friend, to be devoted, not committed.
100%.
Yeah, huge difference. And then your mission, that's the other category, your purpose, like how you create value in the world. Because if you're not creating value in the world, you're just taking up space, my friend, right? And you're not going to be fulfilled. You got to serve, you got to give. And then you have your finances. We live in a world where there's economics. There's a game being played. You got to know the rules of that game, and you need to be good at them. Otherwise, you're going to be very limited. You're not going to have freedom to live life the way you want. And anyone can do it. You know all about it. But it's like understanding the game. And just because you don't know it now, or you grew up in a certain place and your parents didn't know about it, does not mean anything. My family didn't know anything.
There's lots of resources out there. You said it at the very beginning of the podcast. You can find knowledge anywhere.
Yeah, it's wisdom.
You just whether or not you apply that knowledge.
Yeah, that's why you become wise
to that financial game, and it's critical.
Yeah. And then the final category I call it ACE, like ACE, and it stands for three things: adventure, like doing new shit, right? And then contribution. Like how do you give back beyond your mission and purpose, beyond your business, right? And then expansion of skills and capabilities. Mm-hmm. So like if you're learning a new language, or like I'm learning something called a certain type of writing right now. And so like that's the skill. But I create an itinerary for my whole life, like certain things I want to learn. And so I find like, who do I want to learn from? What does it mean? I plan it out in the curriculum. And but those are my categories for life. And then the question is, I already know this for me, but you tell people the categories, you say, what is the order of priority with these categories, and rate them. Like you can go 0 to 100. Like I like to do percentages. So like 0 to 100 in spirit and love. How much are you really devoted to being your best self? Like loving, being that state of being, like being spirit. And then what about your health? Like, are you exercising regularly? Or are you training? Training's different, right? Because you're training your mind and body as one now.
Right.
And then like you go through those things and you can see, where are you lacking? But the priority, if your number one priority is finances, I can predict your future. It's not going to be a good one. You might have money, but your relationships are behind that. All these other things are behind it. So those categories, knowing what's most important to you in life is critically important. And then if you're in a relationship, letting those people know what's most important to you and why. Just so like when you tell, your spouse, like, hey, you're third, it's because I love you so much. I'm not going to just be here for you. I'm going to be here as my best. You'll never have to worry. Like that. That's a different experience. But if you just say, hey, you're third, I got to go train. This might be terrible advice. So you guys might want to think this one through.
Yeah. Are you married?
Not. Maybe you should take this one.
That's awesome. No. It's perspective, right? But you're right. Like to say that it's third, it's because if you are making yourself better, it should be for the ones you love. That vision, that purpose behind it. It's like, yes, it should be for you too, of course. But in a world of contribution where you are contributing, there is no, or at least in my experience, there has been no greater satisfaction than the contribution that I can make to my wife as being the best person that I can be. And so it's an interesting conversation from that perspective, because it's like, yep, I got to really focus on my own emotional, mental, and spiritual, and how I show up. But it is for the purpose of showing up for.
That's the higher purpose. It's bigger than you, right? Yeah. That's devotion. That's not commitment. That's not dabbling. That's devotion. Yeah, it's a big difference.
And it's learned, right? It's like, I had a lot of ass kickings from some people we know, and it's just growth, guys. It's like, you're not going to be there. You shouldn't know how to do it. it should be a game or a, process, or and something that you just grow into. Yeah.
And I think there's some parts of self-mastery, right? Is that devoted and humble student of self-mastery. Student implies that you're here to learn. And humble means you don't know everything, right? And devotion means, hey, I'm going to show up as my best during this process. But that's what life is. Life, if you were to summarize like our purposes as like a species, of humanity, I would say we're all here to learn and grow for sure. That's a thing. If you're not doing that, you're messing up. Yeah. Because like the world is evolving so quickly. Like I'm learning about AI every day just because I know it's going to impact everything, and I know, right? And so learn and grow, give and serve, and love and forgive. Those are the big three categories, I would say.
Sorry, say that again. Learn and grow.
Learn and grow, give and serve,
give and serve,
love and forgive.
That's beautiful, man.
Thanks.
No, that's good.
I could tell I came from the heart. That
is.
I hit the feelers with you.
That's it. And honestly, it's like, I mean, it's an unbelievable spot to just, I actually love it. It's a great spot to just end the podcast on, like in terms of like, guys, like this is what it's all about: learning and growing, giving and serving, and loving and forgiving. And I will add this one thing, not just to the people outside your life, but to yourself.
100%.
It's beautiful, brother. I am so glad that you came in today. We haven't seen each other.
I know. I missed you, man.
Quite a few years. So it's been, I think, prior to the pandemic, I guess. So it's awesome to see you. It's amazing. Thank you for the gift you've given the listeners, myself.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
I got a ton of notes here. This has just been amazing. So thank you for being here. I'm so grateful, Billy, to A, be able to call you a friend, and B, for you to be here and share your time with everybody.
That goes both ways, my friend.